Hey guys, I'm Stacy and thank you for tuning into the Retro Time Machine. Today I'm going to be doing an in-depth tutorial about this really cool Pool-Noodle candle sculpture. So the great thing about it is you can use it for 2 holidays if you make it in red or white. You can use it definitely for Halloween or Christmas.
For this project, I used 3 Pool-Noodles, well technically 2.5. I really liked this one because it had a unique kind of floral shape. I got these candles off of Amazon. I really like how big the flame was and that you didn't have to cut it to fit like a tea light. So you need the candles, some zip ties, batteries, the Gorilla Glue for plastic, expanding foam, some rocks in a plastic jar, caulk, spray paint, a razor blade, and cardboard, also some paint, maybe some other tools, a list below. So I knew I did not want this project to blow away, and I knew glass might be a little hard to get the pool noodles to stick to, so I transferred everything to a plastic jar and measured out my tallest pool noodle, and then did some varying sizes different. I did 1 tall, 2 medium, and 3 small, and then I also cut a very small one for the top of this plastic jar of rocks, measured out the candle length, went a little bit deeper so we could carve out that flame burn, and cut that one to size. So in order to make these look like they've melted, you want to cut out a V on one side of the candle. I went pretty creative with the shapes that I used on the varying candles. You could take more, you could take less, but see, you want that light to kind of have a place to sit. So I just went through and kind of creatively carved some pre-melted candles. Now, I couldn't think of a better way to make a candle look melted than to actually melt it. So I busted out my handy dandy butane torch and decided to kind of sculpt and melt these candles in a very organic way. This was probably my favorite part of this whole craft. You can see how perfectly that looks like a melted candle already, but I did get a little overzealous on some of these, so I am gonna have to extend the pool noodles. So I just cut some extra chunks and attached them with Gorilla Glue for plastic and foam and some toothpicks, and you could never tell. Once you've shaped and melted your candles to your liking, I made this little stand out of cardboard box and some bamboo skewers, and I just went through and gave everything a few coats of white spray paint. Now it's time to start the assembly. I fed together some of my zip ties so I knew that they would fit, and I marked with my thumb where I needed the glue and went ahead and secured that first candle for our base. Kind of measured up what I thought everything should look like, and did the same thing with the others. I attached the glue and a few zip ties just to hold everything as it dried. Also made sure to transfer my sculpture onto cardboard at this point so it could be sturdy. Once everything was secured, I went back in with some more of that Gorilla Glue and glued in our center candle, and then I went in with my expanding spray foam and really got to play with that melting wax look. I let everything dry for a couple hours and then snip, snip, snipped off the zip ties. So for paint, you're going to want an off-white, a pure white, and a yellow for the flame, or whatever colors you're going to use. I also added some colors for shading. Didn't use those too much, but I went in with my off-white first and then followed in with my yellow to kind of show the shadows and highlights being cast inside of the candle. And then for a highlight, I went over everything with the really bright white. So the spray paint acts as a great primer, but it really reacts kind of aggressively to the exposed pool noodle area, so be careful with that, and know that you can always go back over your project with paint. Now here is what not to do. I thought I could melt the expanding foam, and that was a horrible idea, so do not do like I did. Bad idea. Almost ruined the whole project. It was a big mistake. Before attaching the smaller candles, I went ahead and did all of the off-white and yellow paint, and now I'm going in with the white paint to get any of those spots that I don't think I could get once I attached the smaller front candles. You can see it really coming together. Also, for a shading effect, I went back in with that off-white because I knew once I attached the smaller candles and decided to put on the drips of caulk that it would look like shadowing. So I went ahead and did the same thing, lots of glue, and zip tied these guys together and went in with this expanding foam. It's so cool because it's reusable. And here I am going in with the caulk. There's no right or wrong way to apply the candle wax strips, in my opinion. I just got super creative and I went through like a whole tube, but it was so cathartic and so much fun just to be able to create that movement and aging to this piece. Once everything had a chance to dry, I removed that bottom zip tie. I did save a little bit of caulk, so you could do this part with a razor blade, but the hot knife, I learned my lesson. It's a lot easier to cut through than trying to burn it. Just don't do that. And here I am going with that last little bit of caulk and adding those front drips to the candle sculpture. So now that we've applied our caulk, we have to get it to blend in a little bit more. I went back in with that off-white and kind of reshaped and reshadowed everything now that we had some more dimension to it. You want to add your shadows first since they're going to be deeper underneath. You can get in deeper with the darker paint first, and then you can go back over it with the lighter paint so it gives that highlight effect. So I went back in with the darker shade and then went back over everything with the bright white, and then on top of the bright white I did a few pops of that yellow candle flame glow. And this is where you got to think about where your light source is coming from inside the candle and how that's going to react to the whole dripping situation. Just kind of paint those areas that you feel like the light would hit. Once you're satisfied with how all your painting and drips came out, go ahead and cut out the excess cardboard. It acts as a good sturdy base, so don't remove all of it, but definitely remove most of the exposed parts that you can carefully, and leave those strips of caulk that have settled at the bottom. You can always go back and camouflage those in with a little bit of white paint and a little bit more caulk. So now you gotta see how everything's come together. Set all your candles to the same time. They have a little timer on them. And go ahead and enjoy that moment of placing those beautiful little fake fires inside your giant candle structure. It looks so cool, guys. I highly recommend taking the time to do this project. It took me about 3 evenings. This came out as such a great statement piece to beckon trick-or-treaters to your front door, and also a very safe way to have candles during the holiday season. I really hope you guys take a second and make this craft, and like always, take care and God bless. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to my channel.